You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
We all have smartphones, and we all know they're pretty amazing, but they also can be amazingly distracting, especially when we're around other people. So US Cellular wants us to reset our relationship with our phones by putting down our phones for $5. That's right, a company that sells phones wants us to put down our phones. And to see what we find, learn more at uscellular.com/built for us.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_dadab. Well, I can't think of a better place to start than with having a little fun with the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears, much like the Packers, wrapped up their OTAs, although we don't really have any insights on what took place. But it doesn't matter, because we got a little bit about the Chicago Bears. Brad Biggs, who covers the Bears, says, Bears offense struggled moving the ball through the air during today's OTA. That should not surprise, or should not be surprising or alarming. Rookie quarterback, new scheme, and a lot to learn. It's going to be a long process. I suppose that's fair. Still, it's funny. There's another report that a lot of balls were hitting the ground. Matt Eberflus gives an overview of where the Bears are in Phase 2 of OTAs. Not perfect right now by any stretch of the imagination. It's a work in progress for all three phases. Now, this is pretty normal, right? However, normal isn't even the right word. This is not necessarily something that anybody needs to, for Bears fans anyways, panic about. But it's not like it has to be that way. I don't know if you guys remember, a super long time ago, the Packers had an open session, and everything seemed great. Jordan Love didn't miss a single pass as far as I can remember. There was a 60-yard bomb for a touchdown, all that good stuff. Kind of different than what the Bears are going through. There's a lot of talk about optimism. Things look good. People are playing fast. Everything's great. And with the Bears, it's a whole lot of, like, look, don't panic, but it kind of sucks right now. Everybody's got a lot of work to do, a lot of things to kind of go through. Balls are kind of not going where they're supposed to go. But, you know, it's early. And you know what? That's true. But here's the thing. Last year, actually, let's go back further. If you go back to year one with Jordan Love, it was like he was a laughingstock. Pardon the interruption. But you remember it, right? It was brutal. The people were laughing at his footwork. Packer fans were even making fun of him, like, "Oh wow, look at him! Yeah, he's an idiot." And it maybe got a little bit better. Like the footwork wasn't as embarrassing, but he was still kind of a joke. And it was like, "Oh geez, this is ugly." It was a very slow progression, and even last year, remember, at its peak, Jordan Love was hot garbage for one half of a segment or section or whatever. And then he would be on fire the second half. And that kind of translated to the regular season. He was really bad in the first half of games and came back and dominated. And it wasn't until the second half of the season that things got better. So what I'm saying is, as much as on one hand it's like, yeah, I'm kind of just screwing around and making fun of them. It's week one. They'll figure some stuff out, they'll whatever. There's no guarantee that this gets figured out by week one. This is a very small period of time, and there's a ton to learn. Even the head coach, Eberflus, when talking about it, so we're throwing everything at him, which, you know, on one hand, it's like, yeah, that's why it's super overwhelming in the beginning, but how long is it going to take before he's ready to take on actual NFL defenses at full speed? Is it by week one? That would be shocking if it was. Now, maybe nobody cares, and it's like, yeah, well, whatever, we'll get it figured out by midseason, next year, or whatever. And fine, that could very well be the case. But just understand that although I'm not 100% saying that he's screwed, or Bears fans are screwed, because that would be a massive overreaction, I think it's fair to look at how brutally bad it is right now, you know, at half speed. and understand that there's a pretty good chance that maybe this year isn't going to be the year that Caleb Williams shows his full potential. We even got quotes here from Bears veteran safety Kevin Byard, and by veteran they mean first year with the Bears, but he's played other places. Bears veteran safety Kevin Byard's message to rookie quarterback Caleb Williams: days like this are going to make you even better. And again, that's encouraging and that's cute and all that, which, maybe that's true, maybe it won't, I don't know. But the fact that a message like that even has to be said, that it was so noticeably not great, that people are asking other players about, what did you say to Caleb about today's abysmal performance, essentially? And he's like, oh yeah, I talked to him about how today sucked, and what I told him is, this will make you stronger. That's how noticeably bad it was, that it wasn't even a question. It wasn't about like, how do you think he did, or it was like, okay, so that sucked, so what do you do now? What did you say to him? That was rough, bro. But anyways, we'll be sure to revisit that. I'm sure he'll have a couple good days mixed in and whatnot, so, it's all in good fun. And it is fun, I'll tell you that. So I'm on a crusade right now, and maybe I'm missing it, I don't know. I don't want to reach out to Eagles fans because I don't need to know their biased opinion on things. I am at a complete and total loss here with the Eagles thing. And I'm willing to listen, but I can't find anything. And what I'm referring to is, as I said, the Eagles were 1-6 to finish the season. They were 10-1 and then went 1-6. There was no doubt, for example, that this is one of, if not the worst defenses in all of football last year, especially to end the season, but kind of throughout. They ended 30th in points given up. It was a awful football team, to be clear. Again, I've been through it. Well, the 49ers are tough. Yeah, but they lost 42-19. Then they played the Dallas Cowboys. Well, the Cowboys are tough. Yeah, but they lost 33-13. And then they lost to Seattle, which is a team that you shouldn't lose to when you're supposedly like one of the top, if not the top teams in the NFC. The only game they won was the next week against the Giants. The Giants, and that was only 8 points. Then you lose to the Cardinals. Then you lose by 17 to the Giants, and then you lose 32-9 to Tampa Bay. Now, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen. But here's my issue. I come into this, the Eagles are 1.5 point favorites. And not only that, I've got people saying, I have no idea why this isn't 3 points for the Eagles. This is easy. It should easily be 3 points. Just explain it to me. Why? And honestly, how many of those games when they went on their big win streak were really that impressive? I mean, just assume Patriots, Vikings, Tampa, who eviscerated them later in the year, but it's not that tough. Washington, they lost to the Jets. They beat Washington again. I mean, these are not necessarily very difficult games to win. So who did they actually beat that was any good? They beat Miami, and convincingly. That was a good one for them. They split with Dallas and came out under in terms of like total points. And then they had a 2-game stretch where they beat Kansas City and Buffalo. They beat Kansas City by 4. They beat Buffalo by 3 in overtime. And then they went on their massive losing streak. So I've been digging around, and I'm trying to get somebody to just give me an in-depth explanation of this. I know it's early, but still, they're 1.5 point favorites. Not that big of a deal. That can easily change. And then I also looked at some of the odds, and it's pretty much every home team is the favorite, which I know Philadelphia technically isn't a home team, but maybe that's part of it. The only team that is an away team that is currently a favorite is Houston against Indy. But, I mean, every other home team is a favorite. So it's probably just early, like, I don't know, just give it to the home teams or whatever. I don't know. But I mean, there was a Green Light with Chris Long podcast, and he's talking to a 46-minute podcast. And they predicted that they beat the Packers and talk about a bunch of stuff. Never once mentioned last year. It didn't come up. It's just, well, they clearly have the better roster. And the Packers are overhyped because of how they ended last year. But the Eagles clearly have the more talented roster. What are... all I'm asking for is an explanation, and nobody can give it. Let me play this for you here, because this is the kind of interaction that makes me crazy. Because it's like, what are you even talking about?
To all of us fans. Anyways, I don't have a read on this game. Maybe I like the Eagles as short favorites here.
Yeah, it's the definition of a trap game. Like, the Eagles, to me, feel like the easiest bet ever. They're playing against a young, inexperienced Green Bay team coming off, a ton of hype from what they did in the playoffs last year. I mean, Jordan Love now is being talked about as if he's a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah.
This is peak Green.
First of all, he is. Second of all, there should be hype, not just because of what they did in the postseason, which was one win, but what they did to get into the postseason, which was be one of the best teams in football by the time they got into the playoffs. And like young and inexperienced. That's kind of an old thing, isn't it? They were maybe young and inexperienced week 1 last year, week 2, week 3. This is year 2 for some of the youngest guys on the team. It's year 3 for several others. It's beyond that for many others, and it's year, I don't know what it is for Matt LaFleur. He's been here for a really long time. I mean, we're playing kind of a stupid game here where they're all young and they don't know what they're doing. And you can't even play the card, well, it's a new defensive system. It's the same for the Eagles. New defensive system. So, and interruptions are out of control. As far as the top 10 thing, I mean, there's nothing worse than when people say stuff that is wrong and then they do it so arrogantly. I generally like these guys because they're, I don't know, I mean, you have to be somewhat involved in data and whatnot to be in the betting world. But man, the arrogance just freaking oozes out of these guys. The way they talk about, I talked to several wise guys. Like, shut up, bro. You're not in the freaking mob. Shut your mouth. Sound like a dork. But just looking at PFF, Jordan Love, as a passer, ranked 9th for the entire season. He was 12th overall, but that's just the entire season. I know we've done this 100 times, but let's do it again. If you look from week 9 on, he ranked 4th. If you look from week 6, actually, well, I'm just looking at the regular season. Week 6 through 18, he ranked 5th. If you look from week 4 through 18, he ranked 7th. So all you have to do is disregard the first 3 weeks of his career for him to be considered a top 10 guy going into the playoffs. From week 4 on, Jordan Love was 7th. And again, he when was his big sort of like awakening? It was week 9, right? And what did I say? He was 4th from that period on? And you're going to sit there with that smug frickin' smirk on your face and say, people talking about him like he's a top 10 quarterback, and the other guy's over there shaking his head with a little smirk on, top 10. Bro, shut your stupid face. The guy is. In what capacity is he not? 6th in yards, 3rd in touchdowns from week 4 on. 7th for PFF, 5th PFF passing grade. Big time throw percentage, he is 6th. Right, we've been through all this crap before. So the Packers went into the season as, and that's just Jordan Love, right? We went through the DVOA and all that stuff. Maybe the best team in football going into the playoffs. Eviscerated Dallas, which nobody said they would do, despite the fact that at that point in time, I think the Packers are a better team than Dallas. It was close. Dallas was pretty white hot also. But again, everybody just wants to disregard it because what? Jordan looked bad early, so we just pretend it didn't happen. And then, so I guess you don't look at the end of the season, you look at the beginning of last season. The beginning of last season, the Eagles are really good and the Packers are really bad. And then the second half of the season, nobody cares, right? Eagles were terrible, Packers are great. That part doesn't count. Is that what we're doing right now?
Bay. I was just in Atlantic City the other day, talked to multiple bookmakers. All of the money is the Eagles. It's just they're begging for Green Bay money. So I'm hoping that's just because of the location I'm in. But again, a lot of these books, it's not just Eagles fans. There's tons of Giants fans. It's a lot of Jets fans too. It's all Eagles money right now. So Eagles might be the chalkiest play of week 1 right now. But obviously we're 3 months out. That could change. But from my viewpoint, I don't really get this number. I have this at -3. So I'm showing good value on the Eagles. But when a bookmaker tells me in week 1 they are begging for a team and it's a dog, I'm eventually going to end up on that side with them, most likely. Like, it's just the way it is, where it's like, as much as I trust my own number, this number is just very weird. I don't really understand it. And maybe it's because international, or maybe because the Eagles finished so poorly last year.
Okay, I'm going to pause it. They're going to elaborate on that, but it's amazing how they just gloss over it. Maybe it's because they ended so poorly last year. You mean the entire second half of the year where they almost went winless, except one win against the Giants? That was essentially a one-score victory. And they also lost by 17 to the Giants. Is that this little blip that you're talking about that you couldn't even understand why that would maybe even impact this number?
That the bookmakers don't really trust them, but it's a bizarre number to me. So for right now, I'm just going to stay away and pass on it.
I don't think it's about. I think you're close to nailing why the number is what it is. This is a public perception bet to me. I don't think fans really paid attention to how well the Eagles drafted. And
so what he's saying is the number is what it is, which doesn't even make any sense, because of public perception. But the guy just said all the money is on the Eagles. So it doesn't sound to me like the public perception is that the Eagles suck. But this is his excuse for how it could possibly be this way. I don't know. It must be that the public perception is so skewed away from the Eagles and they're just stupid.
And how much they improved their personnel and how much better their defense got by the changes in the coaching staff. And so the bookmakers know that. And like people who are really paying attention know that the Eagles kind of won the offseason, when it comes to the NFC.
So the Eagles were terrible, but they won the offseason. That's why we should trust them, which doesn't make any sense. You don't trust them based on what they were last year. So this isn't even about when the Eagles were peak Eagles. They're going to be that again. This is about, no, this is a new team, and it's going to be really good. New team with new players and new coaches and new draft picks. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Especially the NFC East. And the Packers, everyone is remembering, oh yeah, the Packers, they played amazing in the playoffs. They beat the Cowboys.
No, they didn't play amazing in the playoffs. And the last thing people saw of the Packers was playing like garbage against the 49ers and Jordan Love throwing late over the middle into the hands of a defender. He threw 2 picks in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So you're just making up a narrative. Well, the last thing people remember is they look so good. No, everybody said that, first of all, it was one good game out of 2. It was Dallas, and everybody said it was Dallas's fault. Dallas imploded. It wasn't. It couldn't have been the Packers. It couldn't have been. And we're just going to disregard what the Packers were going into the postseason. This is revisionist history. This is nonsense because we don't want to admit that 1.5 for the Eagles is, I mean, that seems like a slap in the face to this obviously amazing team, and you'd have to be just it's the stupid public that doesn't know that they quote unquote won the offseason, which is so stupid.
Had chances to advance. So I think there's just a lot of public sentiment coming in on the Packers.
No, he literally just said all the money is on the Eagles.
Remembering them being, and that people remembering the Eagles being disastrous at the end of the year. So that's why I think it's chalky and it's a little bit of a trap. But I don't think our reasoning is right, that this is the right side, but it's a little scary to play it this early. It's not where I would lock up my money.
It's just a weird.
I mean, first of all, I mean, it's unbelievable to me that this guy said, I don't think people paid attention to how well the Eagles drafted. We don't know how well they drafted, you moron. That hasn't been established yet. We won't find out until a couple years into this. What are you talking about? Are we seriously going to sit here and say that the Eagles, who completely imploded last year, are now just going to automatically be elite? Why? Because they got Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and we know that those 2 guys are going to be elite? Week 1, and then their next pick was Jalix Hunt, and then the running back Will Shipley, Aniyah Smith, Jeremiah Trotter, Trevor Keegan, Johnny Wilson, Dylan McMahon. So they went from one of the worst teams in football to being better than a team that was one of the top in football at the end of last year because of their draft picks. And by the way, the idea that, well, their massive overhaul on the defense as far as the coaching staff, which is another big boon. Okay, yeah, if you assume that defensive scheme is any good anymore, which I don't see anybody talking about aside from on this podcast. Not a single Vic Fangio defense did well last year, including Vic Fangio's. So I'm sorry, you're going to have to do better than this in explaining. Like, I need a reason. Like, oh, we lost our quarterback in the second half of the year. Oh, okay, he's coming back. Okay, great, got it. But that didn't happen. Tell me what happened. It's like nobody wants to even address what happened. What happened? Anybody tell me what happened. It's like we're just supposed to ignore it. It's fine. Defense was bad, but we got Vic Fangio now, so everything's gonna be fine. Oh, okay. Is that why they scored like 19 against the 49ers and 13 against the Cowboys and then 17 against the Seahawks and 10 against the Giants and 9 against Tampa Bay because the defense was so bad? Is that what you're getting at here? We're blaming the defense. You lost 17-20 to the Seahawks. That's the defense's fault. Bro, even if you had a good defense, scoring 9 against Tampa Bay ain't going to get it done. Again, I'm open to the idea that I'm very wrong on this, but everything I'm hearing is so stupid. Well, I don't know why we'd be talking about last year. They won the offseason. They drafted so well, even though we have no idea how well they drafted. They got this great defensive coordinator who hasn't been great since 2018. When he was with the Bears, and it was 1 year that happened. By the way, a completely revamped coaching staff, are we sure that that's going to be great? Going into day one, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback coach, new assistant offensive line coach, new offensive assistant, new defensive coordinator, new senior defensive coordinator, new defensive line coach, new inside linebacker coach, new defensive backs coach, let's see, new assistant linebackers coach, new defensive quality control coach, all new. And we're positive that that's going to be great, like immediately. Just a complete overhaul. Like, so the problem was the coaching staff, and you're positive that this is a perfect coaching staff. Kellen Moore, he's going to fix this, right? He's going to make it all better. And again, Vic Fangio, instead of Desai and Matt Patricia, that's going to fix this, right? We know that for sure. Why would you not go with the more established team? Let me put it this way. If the Eagles had played the Packers at the end of last year, we all acknowledge that the Packers would have beat the living crap out of them, right? Okay. So what makes the difference here? We got the same head coach, same quarterback, almost the exact same roster. And when I say almost exact same, I mean, you can switch over 5, 6, 7 guys. It's still almost identical. There's a lot of guys on a football team, especially the core pieces. One of those core pieces, by the way, being your center, that's gone, which is a place you got worse. And who did you even add? You won the offseason with what? Saquon Barkley? Give me a break. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I think this is a case of a lot of big names went there. They got Vic Fangio. They got Saquon Barkley. They got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's always been freaking overrated. It's why he can't stay on a single team. It was a big deal when the Lions got him, and then the Lions got rid of him, and now the Eagles got him, remember? Bouncing back and forth. Huh? They got Devin White, which I guess is something I'm supposed to be amazed by, even though he sucks. They got Mekhi Becton, which is like a huge deal because he was drafted early, even though we should probably acknowledge that the Jets let him go because he sucked so much, and they also gave him a 1-year, $2.75 million contract, which means they acknowledge he sucks and is probably not even going to start. Can we also acknowledge that while you got C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you lost Kevin Byard to the Bears? Can we talk about that? Can we talk about how Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox and Devontae Parker all retired? So I'm sorry, you're going to have to do a lot more if you're going to convince me that, yeah, last year sucked, but we completely overhauled the coaching staff and the media really liked our draft picks because a bunch of guys fell because they weren't as good as everybody thought, and the Eagles ended up being the ones to scoop them up, and therefore we win. Like, we got Quinion Mitchell at 22. What a great steal. Or maybe he wasn't as good as people said he was. We got Cooper DeJean at 40. Because maybe he wasn't as good as people saying he was. Because Quinion was supposed to be gone by like 12. Cooper was supposed to be gone before the second round, probably around like 20-ish. I don't know. I don't get it. Why don't we take a quick break? I want to just explore this a little bit. See if we can get an answer to this question. Just answer the question. You think the Eagles are going to bounce back. They're going to beat the Packers. Okay, tell me why. We'll be right back. We all have smartphones, and we all know they're pretty amazing, but they also can be amazingly distracting, especially when we're around other people. So US Cellular wants us to reset our relationship with our phones by putting down our phones for $5. That's right, a company that sells phones wants us to put down our phones. And to see what we find, learn more at uscellular.com/built for us.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
This episode is supported by FX's Clipped, the scandalous story of the 2014 Clippers owner's racist remarks captured on tape and heard around the world. The series charts the tape's impact on a dysfunctional basketball organization striving to win against their reputation as the most cursed team in the league. Starring Lawrence Fishburne, Jackie Weaver, Cleopatra Coleman, and Ed O'Neill. FX's Clipped, streaming June 4th, only on Hulu.
Kansas City. Then we go to the Packers at the Eagles here. And this one, 1.5 point spread. Give me the Eagles to win this one there and cover that spread. I've got some narrow value here as I just think that the Eagles are the better team here. Do not know how these teams will respond to this game being played in Brazil. But I just do think that the Eagles are the slightly more physical team. Obviously, the Eagles started out 10-1 last season, coming off the Super Bowl appearance, and the Packers were horrible, but then Jordan Love plays a lot better. Jalen Hurts obviously regresses last year. So we will see, do these teams progress towards the mean, or is that just an elite Packers team and an Eagles team that's failing? I would disagree with that opinion. I still do think that the Eagles are slightly better, but I may back out of this one as the game comes closer, or I might feel better about the Eagles. We will see.
What does that even mean? What does that even mean? I don't know. I think they're better. I don't know. I think they're more physical. Is this an ascending Packers team and an Eagles team that's failing? I reject that. Why? I don't know. I just feel like it. Is that what we're doing? Just tell me. I mean, I'm sorry to keep subjecting you to this, but here's another one. This is a very prominent YouTuber, the Goat House. I don't know what he does exactly. But here is how he thinks through this. I'm just doing this wrong. I'm thinking too hard. I just need to start streaming and just go, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to pick this person.
I mean, a great game. Just a perfect, even matchup. Two legit contenders in the NFC to start the year here in Brazil. To me, on paper, I mean, I like the Packers a lot for this year. I think they'll be really, really good. I think on paper, maybe a lot of people would say the Eagles are better, but I think they're pretty even. But so it's like a 50-50 game, but and you factor in it's in Brazil. A lot of it comes down to who shows up, like who's good with traveling there, who's prepared to play. So really, it's still a 50-50 game. Either team could win. I think a lot of running the football in this game. I think the Packers will use their new weapon, Josh Jacobs, and their other new weapon in Marshawn Lloyd. The Eagles will use their weapon in Saquon Barkley. I don't think either team's going to go all out. I mean, they're going to throw the ball. They're going to air it out.
This is just word salad. This is just words being thrown around.
Of course, but I don't know if they're going to go all out in that part of the game. A lot of running the football, running the clock, and just see who gets out of there. The Eagles, they ended last year so poorly. The Packers.
Okay, so we finally get to that. The Eagles ended so poorly. The Packers ended strong, or whatever, how he's going to phrase it. So let's dig into that a little bit. So that's the last thing we saw. The Eagles are garbage. The Packers are great. Okay, so where do we go from there? Help me understand, oh mighty Goat House.
Ended last year really good, better than expected. Just such an interesting matchup.
That's it. That's it. That was the whole thing. The Eagles ended so poorly. The Packers ended so strong. Oh, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's interesting? Answer the freaking question.
Green Bay Packers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. There's no real home team in this game because they're playing in Brazil, right?
Right.
Man, the Packers are a very, very talented team.
Thank you.
And I don't know what Eagles team is going to show up this year. They were 10-1 last year, and then they had one of the biggest collapses in NFL history. That defense is terrible. They didn't really improve on the linebacker position, especially with Vic Fangio, the new defensive coordinator's 3-4 scheme. They did add 2 good D-backs in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
They added 2 D-backs. We don't know if they're good yet, but so far this is the best I've heard of anybody just laying out the facts as they are.
But I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think the Green Bay Packers win a close game 23-20. Next up.
All right, so again, this is all just kind of guessing at this point, but I mean, is he not wrong? I mean, I would even take it further than he did. I have for a while now. And just to be clear, the reason I'm going into this today is because today I would kind of pull up some of the numbers as far as the betting information, and I was just surprised to see the Packers are underdogs. And I'm like, all right, well, explain it to me. And nobody can explain it. And again, this was the best. This Jay All Day, whoever Jay All Day is, it's hard to find people that have done 2024 predictions already because it's early. But I just want to hear somebody talk about the game and explain the thought process that puts the Eagles over the Packers. And just like he said, Packers are talented, Eagles are garbage. They did add some stuff, but we don't know how that's going to pan out, so it's kind of hard to pick the Eagles. Right. Isn't it, though? Don't they have to prove they don't suck before we even get them back to the point of being Super Bowl contenders? Prove to me you don't just suck at football. How about that? We're just automatically going to put them ahead of the Green Bay Packers, who were one of the top teams last year? Because what? They drafted Quinyon Mitchell and brought in Vic Fangio, whose defense sucked last year? Okay. I mean, the Packers' defense wasn't very good, and they brought in a new defensive coordinator, right? Did you know that? Or no? Real quick, let's take our final break. We'll be right back.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's PG.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
510 Whiskey declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
All right, it's the last one, I promise, and then I want to just kind of try to do an honest look at week one. As honest as I can, and I'll admit that it's difficult. Now, let's save that. Here you go.
The Packers at the Eagles. This one's in Sao Paulo. This is a Friday night game. 48.5 point total. Eagles favored by 1.5. This line has been moving a little bit. RJ, I'm going to start with you. I like the Eagles this year, but I also really like the Packers. This is a tough one.
Yeah, our producer Jake was telling us he saw ESPN Bet have, or a different book have 3+3, and people jumped on that because it's like this matchup has been out for weeks. We've known it, and books have hung this and mostly have been 1.5. But I think it's close to the right number. I think you could even argue it should be a pick 'em. It is a neutral field, and I just don't know which of these teams are better. Packers were the much better team at the end of last year, but I do expect the Philadelphia coaching changes to matter. Again, with coaching changes with me, is that enough to make Philadelphia clearly the better team? I don't think so. I think they're probably even. They did have a big draft adding that cornerback talent. Are they going to play at an NFL level out the gate, or do they have to catch up to NFL speed in week one, especially with a guy in Quinyon Mitchell coming from facing, the Toledo type of opponents versus, NFL quality players. So we'll see if he can keep up with the Packers in this one. So it's not enough value for me to bet at 1.5. If I could have got 3, I definitely would have played it at 3. So if you see anything near 3, I would jump on the Packers there.
So, look, it sounds like that's just what it is. And I understand to some degree refusing to accept that the Eagles are just bad now. And I think that to some degree that's fair. It doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense that they're just going to be bad now. You know, I mean, how does that happen? Well, I don't know. How did it happen at the end of last year? But I don't know that you can just automatically assume they're going to be good now either. And to say, well, I trust the coaching changes, well, okay. But to what degree? Are they going to be back to top team in the NFC? And even then, it's close to 50-50 between the two teams. And if it's not, or if it takes a while or anything like that, I mean, there's just so much going by way of the Packers. I mean, that nonsense comment about this young, inexperienced Packers team. No, the young, inexperienced team, maybe not young, but inexperienced team is the Eagles. They're the one that's starting from scratch. Matt LaFleur had this thing humming last year. They're going to pick up where they left off. There's nothing to pick up from last year for the Eagles. They're starting over on offense. They're starting over on defense. It's all new. And week one, I'm supposed to expect that the Eagles are back to what they were last year when they were a powerhouse, just like that, just automatically. I mean, losing your center is a massive deal. And as of right now, the Eagles went from one of the best offensive lines to a team that has a good left tackle, a good right tackle, and a very suspect interior. They added Saquon Barkley, which I think is a massively overhyped addition. He ranked 35th in the NFL last year. I don't know if the guy's ever played a full season. His best year ever was his rookie year, and he's never returned to that. A.J. Brown is a dominant football player. There's no doubt about that. And Devontae Smith is a good football player. So they got wide receivers. Congratulations. Dallas Goedert ranks 16th among tight ends, which is, I guess, okay. They do not have corners. They drafted a couple, but they're rookies. So I don't really expect them to come out of the gate dominant. They added Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which is a downgrade from the safety that they had prior to. They added Devin White, who's one of the worst linebackers in all of football. Nakobe Dean had a pretty rough year last year in year two, which he didn't play very much, but it didn't go well. So, I mean, it's similar to the same Eagles team as always, with a brand new offensive coaching staff, brand new defensive coaching staff, brand new running back, downgraded offensive line, entirely new rookie corners, downgraded linebackers, and then, good tackles and good defensive line, like they always have a good defensive line. And Jalen Hurts. I mean, it's not to say that Jalen Hurts can't do some damage with a couple good wide receivers, and that this pass rush, with Brandon Graham here, can't generate something. But to sit here and say they're better on paper is silly to me. I would take Jordan Love over Jalen Hurts. You don't have to if you don't want to. That's fine. I fully acknowledge Jalen Hurts is a dominant quarterback. He has been for a couple years. He's a talented guy. He ended the season 8th last year, which is technically ahead of Jordan, assuming we're only looking at, the entire season as opposed to, again, once things started to click for Jordan. But Jalen's a good quarterback. So good quarterbacks are teams that are going to be tough to play, but the Packers have one too. I don't know that they have in fact, the Packers, I believe, do have a better running back situation. I'm not certain that they have a better tight end situation. I know Dallas Goedert is a coveted guy, but I think he's another guy that, because he was elite at one point in his career, everybody assumes he stayed that way. He was the 10th best as a rookie, then 6th, then 6th, then 2nd. Incredible. Then he went down to 4th, which is still good, and then 16th last year. His grades went from a 91 to a 78 to a 71. So it might be absurd Packers bias to say that one of our two pretty talented tight ends could end up being better than Dallas Goedert, but really we're just saying top 15. It's not that crazy or lofty of a thing here. And although I don't expect to have a wide receiver better than A.J. Brown, I think the totality of it, we might have one, if not two, better than Devontae Smith, and we certainly have significantly better depth. Their other receiver, number 3, Paris Campbell, he had a 51 PFF grade last year. So they got one elite guy, one good guy, and nothing else, aside from, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert. The Packers have better corners unless their 2 rookie corners come out and just are elite day one. If not, it's not even close. The Packers have better linebackers. The Packers should have better safeties. They maybe have better tackles and a defensive line, especially with Jalen Carter being an absolute freak on the interior. on paper, they have a bad interior. They have no wide receiver depth. They got a broke down running back. They got an entirely new coaching staff. They have no corners, linebackers, and maybe one good safety in Reed Blankenship. That's it. That's all they have. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is not good. I'm sorry. I'm done talking about that. And again, I don't know how we just disregard what they did last year, how they finished. Well, that was because of the coaching staff. Okay. And, by the way, this is the coaching staff that had them that was elite to start the season, correct? Okay. So why didn't the coaching staff cause them? I mean, let's be real. At the beginning of the year, the Eagles were one of the best and most dominant teams. I remember at one point in the season, week 5, 6, whatever, saying that the Eagles are like one of the best teams, and the 49ers, I think, just beyond elite. Unbelievable how good they are. Super scary. That was the same coaching staff. And then the same coaching staff that made them elite is gone now, and a new one's in. So how good are they going to be with the new coaching staff? Don't know, right? So what are we talking about on paper? We don't know. I look. I guess I'm just surprised, man. I mean, the Packers, it feels like, have to scratch and claw to get just an ounce of respect. Matt LaFleur, some people still don't think he's done enough to prove anything, which is shocking. Jordan Love hasn't done enough to prove anything despite being, a top 3 quarterback for 75% of the year last year. Josh Jacobs has been a premier running back in the NFL. Nobody likes him. Watson, Reed, and Dobbs and Wicks. It's a really good wide receiver group. But I think because nobody has emerged as like a top 10, nobody really cares. Rashawn Gary can never get any respect. There's always excuses as to why we don't talk about him. Jair, God forbid, the guy ranked 22nd last year, and it was like the worst thing in the world. He had a 76 PFF grade, was a borderline top 20 corner, and everybody lost their mind like he's garbage. We got Xavier McKinney in the offseason. Everybody talks about so-and-so won the offseason. We got a top 5 safety. Nobody cares. We got a new coaching staff on defense. Nobody cares. All right? The Eagles immediately better because they got a new coaching staff. The Packers, I don't know. They got a new coaching staff. And somehow the Eagles can spend an entire half of a season being the worst team in all of football, and it just gets erased in the offseason. It's just fixed. We fixed it. How'd you fix it? How do you know it's fixed? Well, because we fixed it. We got we drafted players. Everybody did. Yeah, but we won the offseason. We got Saquon and stuff. Okay, everybody added pieces. Yeah, but we got a new coaching staff. So does pretty much everybody. How do I know that we're getting the first half compared to the second half Eagles team? You haven't explained that to me. Nobody has laid that out for me. Yeah, it's fixed. It's just fixed. They changed stuff, so now it's fixed. They're great now. Okay, fine. No, great. Yeah, you're right. Total, 100%. They added Vic Fangio, so they're going to be great, right? So how good was Vic Fangio's defense last year? Oh, it sucked? Oh, okay. But he's going to be great this time with the Eagles, who had one of the worst defenses in football. This time, okay. That makes perfect sense to me, honestly. That those two things connect like a freaking glove, like OJ's glove, man. They fit just wonderfully. I just need somebody to talk me out of putting $1,000 down on the Packers. Just talk me out of it. I know it's early. Maybe it's like the draft process, like for 2025, where people just say crazy stuff, and people that are super plugged into the draft are like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I don't know, man. It's early. I'm just making up crap. I don't understand. And again, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I've lost my mind. But even among Packer fans, when we talk about like the tough schedule coming up or the tough games, it's like, well, Houston is a tough game and Miami's a toff game and the 49ers are tough. I've never heard anybody mention the Eagles so far. Maybe I missed it. Maybe a lot of Packer fans are like, bro, Eagles week 1 is going to be rough. I'm caught off guard a little bit. I thought maybe the Eagles would have to prove it, but apparently, nope, the Eagles just get a pass. Because it's the Eagles, man. We love the Eagles. So good. They're elite. I don't know. It just feels like there's these weird biases all the time. And it's not just everybody except the Packers. I mean, there's some teams that the media seem to love and some they seem to hate. The Bears are one of those teams that just get treated with kid gloves all the time. Don't know why. Just kind of random. Eagles are apparently another one. Like they were like, I'm not kidding. They were the worst team in football. What happened? I don't know. It doesn't matter. They're fine. It's fixed. It's great. I mean, you look at the whole, remember when we were that situation with the Packers and Jets? Man, you would have thought the Packers would have been seen as like the geniuses and the Jets would have been seen as the idiots because the Packers have been such a well-run organization for decades, and the Jets have been one of the biggest jokes. It's like, this is David versus Goliath, except, without the implication that the little stupid team loses or wins or whatever. It's just a Goliath of an entity in the Green Bay Packers against this little peon group of idiots that don't know. No, it wasn't that at all. Joe Douglas is a super genius. He is? Oh, yeah. No, he's great. Gutekunst, he's kind of an idiot. He is? Oh, yeah. He drafted Jordan Love. That was bad. He should have drafted T. Higgins. He should have? Yeah. And Joe Douglas, man, he's drafted like Sauce Gardner and stuff. I don't think he's made any good picks outside of like the top 3, but, he got some studs, bro. Gutekunst ever get a guy like Sauce? I don't think so. So there you go. That's how you know. That's how you know right there. Like, what are we doing here? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. And listen, I'm leaving it open to the possibility that they're going to get back to what they were. Fine. But just tell me how you got there. Tell me why you're just assuming it. And if you as a bettor, if you want to come into this game and just say, I don't know, man, it's too scary because I don't know what the Eagles are doing. They're too freaking volatile. If they come back, I'd take the Packers. But if they come back and are just like that team early last year, then, they're probably going to win the game. All right, that's fine. But to just have this sort of arrogant, like, oh, obviously the Eagles are the better team, and like the Packers, people just expect this Packers team to be good because like they played a good game in the playoffs. Like, no, nobody thinks that because that would be stupid. Am I nuts? Call in 608-501-0718. New callers go to the front of the line. Tell me why I'm crazy. And I'm trying to look at it and just be like, okay, what happened? Jalen Hurts, he was there the entire second half. Jordan Mailata, the left tackle, he was there the second half. A.J. Brown, I think he went out week 18, but that's about it. He played entire second half of the season. Dallas Goedert, he was there. Lane Johnson, he was there. Like, who did they miss? What caused this catastrophe? Devontae Smith, he played the entire second half of the season. Brandon Graham, he was there the second half of the season. The rookie, Jalen Carter, he played the entire second half of the season. There wasn't like some big core piece that was missing that it's like, oh, that's maybe what caused it. Now I get it. No, they were all there. They were all playing, all accounted for. So these same players, minus one of their best players at center, all were playing and all were losing. And you're trying to convince me it all came down to play calling. That this defense is really elite and it was just play calling, despite the fact that I'm looking at it right now and it's kind of trash. You got Carter and Graham and like nothing. Okay, all right, fine. Like I said, call in. Let me know. I don't get it. I don't understand it. The Packers should be significantly ahead of where this team is. And it's just annoying that it feels like, why do the Packers have to do so much to prove everything and the Eagles don't? The Packers never had a slump like the Eagles had. Is it just the quarterback thing? Like, well, they got Jalen, they're going to be fine. And we still don't know about Jordan, so Jalen. I mean, if so, that's fine. Just tell me that it's for stupid reasons so I can put money on this game. That's all I'm saying. Just tell me that everybody that is dismissing the Packers and is sure that the Eagles are going to be great, they don't have good reasons. They're just saying stupid stuff because they don't know what to say. Just tell me that, and then I'll act accordingly. I just don't want to miss something big. You know what I mean? Just one last time as a refresher. The last time this team, almost the exact same roster, stepped on a football field, they went to Tampa Bay, who is a team, worse than the Lions, who are worse than the Packers, by the way, and they lost 32-9. And the reason is because they didn't belong in the playoffs. And that was proved when they lost 27-10 to the Giants. This wasn't like, by the way, the Packers who, like, they had a little down period of 2 games or something and then bounced back. This was 7 weeks. It's a half a football season. Anyways, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.